Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. John Kelly, profiler here, and welcome. Welcome to today's show, Motives and Angles. And we're going to be deep diving into this today. I'll tell you that right now. And you're going to hear us come up with different questions that you're not going to hear anywhere else. I'm going to tell you that right now. You're going to find this to be a very, very interesting show. Please try to hang in there. If you like it, give us a like. And if you really like us and you want to hang on to us, subscribe. So give us a like and subscribe and become part of the family here because I'm lucky enough to have great experts on, and they don't miss a beat. And today we have Dustin Ranck, private investigator. He's excellent, really knows his stuff, real pro. A lot of street smarts as well. And we're very lucky to have Pam Bogart on today for a second time. I mean, Pam is, over 30 years, crisis counselor in the courts in New Jersey. Also, bottom line, I think she's one of the best researchers I've ever met. And I think she's a hell of an investigator. She's worked for probation for all these years, decades, and she brings all this experience into the show. And we're very honored to have Pam and Dustin. This is only Pam's second time out. Pam's not one to be out there, but this case has so upset her with the way the court system has handled it. Because don't forget, Pam is a real pro when it comes to the court system. She's worked them for over 30 years. Pam, when you look at this, I mean, how does this attack you? How does this, come at you? And before I get you started, I have to bring out, I always forget to do this. Everybody's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, folks. That's just the way it is, okay? Everybody's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And what we're bringing out today is our opinions on different motives that are possible here in different angles. Pam, I'm sorry there. What do you think? What do you when you see this? I mean, I know this has upset you deeply watching this. And you've been, in custody battles, you've been involved in custody situations. And I never saw anything bother you as much as this. You know.
I just don't know whether maybe the Jersey courts or maybe Dustin can speak to this are much different than Oklahoma because, the last time that I spoke about how the area was so rural, which it is out there anyway, but that they could have met at a safer location. However, I've watched a lot of different YouTube stations that are sort of based out there, based in Oklahoma and Kansas. And a lot of the participants in the chat would have said that they would consider it safe where they met because it was near a highway. But to me, I just think when you have a situation where the custody battle is volatile and it's contentious, and this person has made threats to her before and they were known. She went to her house. That's written in the probable cause affidavit back in February. She went to her house with her whole posse, but she wouldn't come out of the house, Veronica. So I just think they should have taken more precautions. And that's why it deeply upsets me, because you can't protect people, even with the best protection. But to me, with the situation the way it was, I just think they could have protected her, the situation more.
There is absolutely, positively no question there. And with that being said, we want to send our deepest condolences out to the family and friends of Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly. I mean, this is a very, very sad situation here. And you bringing out this faux pas or this mistake or whatever, this mix up, how it went on, and with the court system, I have to ask you, if this is Pam's case, Pam Bogart's case, how does Pam do it? Okay, so now just put yourself in their place for a minute, right? I mean, now you're going to get an invite to meet somebody in an abandoned gas station, right? To hand off a couple of kids. And you've been in situations like this. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, after, like I said, after watching some of these YouTube channels and that were based out there, like there's two YouTubers that were boots on the ground. They were like on the ground. And I think I mentioned them. They were like out there, sort of like trying to find these women initially. And a lot of their audience said that it was not unusual for that to be a meetup place. Now, for me in New Jersey as a probation officer, if if somebody said you go with you're going to accompany this client to, out in the middle of nowhere in the situation that is presented here, I would be like, no. I mean, like it has to be a safer place. I have never known in the court system, and I know that my court system has a lot of flaws. However, I've we take a lot of precautions, but like I said, I don't want to down the court system in Oklahoma because, things might be different out there. But to me, the way I would have handled it, if I had a say, I probably would have spoken to the judge about the location, and said, this is not a good place to go, especially with the way, my client, or, the person I'm, here supporting is afraid of this person. So
And this person's made threats. Sorry, Dustin.
Oh, you're good.
Okay. So this person's made threats already. So you wouldn't have strapped on your gun and said, "Okay, let's go meet." Okay. You would have said, "I want a safer place like police station," you know.
Well, I'd also since we last were on, I spoke to a couple of my colleagues who have also done supervised visitation. And they, I had to familiarize them with the case because they really didn't know that much about it. But I asked them too, and they were like, there's no way. That's why, I mean, even in certain towns in New Jersey, if people meet on Sundays and they do an exchange at the police station, they have cameras running so that even if there's nobody in there, somebody can see something when the exchange goes on. But I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. There was really, could you get a cell phone ping out there? I think it was hard to even. Yeah, I know it was right. And I mean, I guess they were just relying on the fact that maybe people on the highway might see something if it went wrong. Or maybe
I don't even think they had many cars on that highway.
Well, it kind of is like I guess Dustin would know better. It sort of looked like a major highway out there. I don't know.
It is.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was just going to say, but I kind of took second thought when I saw these people commenting the other day well, I would feel safe going there and exchanging my kids. And maybe because it's a different area. It's different expectations. It's just not something we would do here in New Jersey. So it's.
Yeah. And, to kind of fill in a little bit more what you're talking about there, Pam, I've reached out to some mental health professionals down in Oklahoma, and you're right. Like there is a familiarity in these rural communities because everybody, has generally a pretty neighborly kind of vibe.
Right.
Not always, but, and it, geographically it is kind of meet in the middle, semi sorta, not really, but and it's a state highway that gets you from the Panhandle kind of down into the meat Oklahoma. But first of all, there's a supervisor for a reason, obviously.
Right.
Which is when I was talking to the people that I know down in Oklahoma, kind of said the same thing you did. Like even though everybody down there is familiar with the case, because you can't kind of not be, they couldn't think of a reason why you wouldn't just meet down in Guyman or at least a
Right.
smaller town, because there are small communities around there that there are people, there's, gas stations, there's places with, some surveillance. Might be minimal. It's certainly not, New York City level type stuff, but nobody I spoke to could think of, now if you had like a non-contentious custody battle going on and things were
Right.
amicable, yeah, like they could see
Right.
that. But even with that,
Mm-hmm.
but the main reason, you had a supervisor there was because you did have the contention and they just couldn't. It's kind of blindsided the people that I spoke to, because that's completely just like you're saying, it's completely counterintuitive to what their recommendations would be for that type of situation.
Right.
No
Maybe they're
cameras, no cameras. Go ahead,
right,
Pam.
right. No, I was just going to say maybe their level of trust is just different. Like Dustin said, there's,
Yeah.
they're, they trust one another more out there. We're constantly thinking about what can happen, up here, what can go wrong.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I mean, yeah, the big difference in the areas. There's no,
right, right.
there's no question about it. The other thing that I thought was interesting is, Dustin, when you were talking about just, the folks out there, and they're such great folks and everything else. And, the next one of the angles I'm looking at is, are these people, because of who they are in that particular area, going to get bailed out, you know? And jump in anywhere you want here, Dustin. But I just wonder, if they have pull in the area, they have a certain amount of prestige in that area. They definitely have money. They own a lot of land. I mean, what are the odds of, because they're innocent until proven guilty? What are the odds of them getting bailed out?
well, and especially talking to the people that I know in that area specifically, but just kind of generally speaking, it it would be really counterintuitive to let these people out on their own recognizance. Whether people have a grudge against the government or not, I mean, that's aside the point. But people, especially the rural communities out there, they place an extremely high emphasis on life. You know, Nobody that I've either talked to or come in contact with at this point has, I just can't imagine, if they were to get released on bail, I can only imagine that, the streets would kind of take care of itself. They're far safer in jail, which I think they're being kept in Guyman, which was kind of another point that we were talking about, behind the scenes. In a smaller place, in a smaller town with a facility, it's going to be far easier to maintain security, which seems a little odd considering we have, a huge county jail down there in Oklahoma, down in downtown. But downtown Oklahoma City is a completely different animal than Guyman. And downtown Oklahoma, Oklahoma City County Jail, since the thing's been built, has been plagued with security issues and just one issue after another. And I don't think they're going to take the risk of, a security breach or something happening to them in prison, because people are pretty outraged about all of this, and rightfully so. I think if they kicked them loose, I don't. I could see there being a lot of backlash, and you got to remember, there's a lot of places to, a lot of ponds, a lot of creeks, and a lot of empty dirt that you can stick a body in Western Oklahoma. I can't imagine those people being safe if they got turned loose for a second.
Yeah, and as horrific as this case is, or sounds,
Yeah.
has the appearance, again, they're innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And it's going to be really interesting to see if they do get any kind of bail or
Yeah.
whatsoever. And again, to me, I'm taken back, as Pam brought up the other night, with that fellow that was, doing, was it the first night of Christmas, Pam? What was it?
The
Right?
night before Christmas, yeah.
The night before Christmas. And is that Trombley?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Twombly, yeah.
Trombley. Yeah,
Yeah.
so he's doing the night before Christmas. And it's participating, how much we don't know, allegedly, I have to say allegedly, in these murders. But then also too, doesn't he have something to do with the club there? Is it 4-H club or some club there?
Yes. Yes, that they all kind of, I don't know, Dustin, did you hear that? They were all sort of like the grandmother was like on the hospital board, and she was a chairwoman for the GOP at one time, and yeah, they were on the both him and his wife were on the 4-H club.
Yeah, the 4-H club. I mean, talk about role models, right? I mean, you're
Family,
talking
yeah,
about role
right.
model for the kids.
Yeah.
This whole thing is like crazy. But then just within saying that, okay, again, something I don't know if the audience really understands, but they weren't role models for their own kids. It's their daughter. Am I correct? That
Yes.
blew the whistle on them. If that daughter doesn't have the courage, and I give her so much credit for having the courage to turn her mother and father in, along with the whole crew, Bryce included, right? Along with Tiffany and her boyfriend. If their daughter doesn't have that kind of courage at 16 years old, 16 years old, I mean, these women may not have been found. Okay,
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
young girl really stuck her neck out. And I really hope that, everybody respects that, and authorities are definitely going to protect her, all the way on this and keep her shielded. But this tells you what kind of parents these two people were, running the 4-H club, getting on, was it YouTube or somewhere else they were doing the night before Christmas or whatever,
That was on his Facebook
on his
page.
Facebook page, and then turning around and being involved, or allegedly being involved in these murders. So how much of a role model is he? How much of a role model was he or her for their daughter when they let her daughter in on all that was going on, all this planning and everything? My God, she's a 16-year-old girl. What did they do to her? What's the trauma that little girl's going to have to suffer? Because she's going to have to testify at some point, because it all pretty much came down exactly the way she said it, right? Unless I'm wrong somewhere. But the situation they put her in, that she has to put her mother and father in jail, and then who does she have to take care of her and raise her? Okay, I mean, this is really, see, this thing is much deeper. When you start to deep dive this, it gets sicker. I mean, this is kind of as the stomach churns, you know? I mean, a show like that, because this only gets worse. How many people were affected? So we got their kids being affected. We got Jillian's kids being affected. We've got Veronica's kids being affected. What other kids are being affected? And we've got two moms murdered, okay, and dropped 10 feet down in a hole in the middle of a cow pasture, okay? So the question I have is that, we really have to look at this, and I hope the authorities are looking at all of this, okay, when it comes to, any kind of bail hearing or whatever. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it certainly, you called it, John. I mean, if you can't, I mean, and again, like, big props to that young woman for speaking up, because I mean, what kind of household is this poor kid living in, that not only is she hearing it, but what else has predated all of that stuff? I mean, this can't be the first thing that they've just all of a sudden, like they got some great 4-H parents, then all of a sudden they're talking about a double homicide in front of a 16-year-old kid. It's, as you always say, John, past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. So you can't believe that that's just been the only thing that's been thrown out. Now, I'm not saying I'm not implying that they've copped to anything in front of their daughter like that, but what other kind of trauma? What else have they put her through? What else has she just in general experienced that she just, you know,
Right.
obviously her moral compass is completely aligned. And my gosh, under the most intense circumstances, you got to view that. And it just makes me really feel for her because I just can't believe that this was been the only thing that she's been subjected to. So,
Yeah, what else has she been exposed to? And Pam, over the years, you've seen and you've talked to me, and not giving any names, everything's always been confidential. Bottom line, just in the way parents get a generalization of parents, or even if they're not parents, the way custody battles take place and custody battles go on, and how they will make up lies, how they will manipulate, how they will stall for time, how they'll do whatever they got to do to try and get the end result they want, how they'll badmouth the other parent. I mean, I've even come across this, and I have not been anywhere near in the position you've been, but through my course of therapy and working with different couples here and there, I've seen this start to take place. And then our move was always to send them over to you guys, on the people we felt needed to get over to the to work with the crisis counseling at the courts. And you guys were the best. I mean, there's no, and you could tell it just from the way you talk. You know what's going on. So what do you think about?
Well, I was thinking when, like when Dustin said she had a moral compass, it's true. And how much did this mother really know her child then? And how dumb are they that they would like speak in front of her? Because there is a chance that she can talk. I mean, did they really think that she did? But and now she's with her father, and I don't know if you read. Did you read the probable cause affidavit?
Part of it, but go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're the pro there. You're the pro there.
Yeah, that these two, before they were arrested, showed up at because I guess when I mean, I'm assuming when I think she told a teacher at the school, and then she had to be interviewed by the police, but she was interviewed at her father's house, and he doesn't live in Oklahoma. But these two showed up at the father's house. And the Cole had like because he's the stepfather. He had like a gun in his holster, all set to threaten her. But this Tiffany woman, she supposedly threatened her son.
Right. She threatened
so
supposedly, allegedly threatened.
Yeah, allegedly. I mean, that's in the probable cause affidavit too, but he's denying that now and probably afraid of her,
Sure. I mean, here's a guy that was in jail, then went off to a rehab. Now he's coming home, I guess, from the rehab. Mother's not there. I wonder what's going through his head. I mean, what about the two children? His two children. I mean, he's going to have to really. I hope to God he can keep it together. And he needs a lot of prayers to help his kids.
And put some services in place. You know what I mean? Sort of like we would do up here. But I think his. I'm not sure whether it's the father's mother, but the other grandmother seems to be a good influence.
Excellent. Excellent. They need someone. They need someone. Yeah.
Right. You're right. Apparently she was like helping Veronica out. So,
and the other part of it is, guys, what I'm looking at did Tiffany believe that, and just my curiosity, that she didn't have to obey the laws? I mean, just laws in general weren't important to her. I mean, I get that sense that, I'm hearing about misfits. I'm hearing about all this anti-government stuff. Then I'm hearing about, chairing or something like that, with the Republican Party out there. Then I'm hearing, that she's on the board of the hospital, where you care for people. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. She's on the board where, has something to do with the hospital, where, where that's there to care for people, right? Well, you know, I just wonder, what is this all about? Is this all smoke and mirrors? Does anybody know the real Tiffany? I'm curious. I'm
Mhm.
just curious because, man, this looks like, a kind of, based on the allegations, an evil chameleon, if you will. I can be good for the county and the township and the area by being, running the Republican Party or being part of it. And, I can be on a hospital board and help people out and everything. Oh, but yeah, I can put a crew together, a very stupid crew, I might add, that, is going to kill a couple of women and bury them, over 10 feet down in the ground. I just wonder, what kind of woman we're looking at. I'm curious. Um, you know, um, and I think more will be revealed about her. What are your thoughts on her and watching all this and everything? And again, these are all allegations we're going by. We're going by what we see, what we hear. She's innocent until proven guilty, but I mean, we're just hearing a lot of stuff. And then we have this Bryce guy, this wannabe, wherever he came from, who wrote this big manifesto and, against the government and everything. I mean, what about that? I mean, it looks like he was coming from nowhere and wanted to get somewhere, but he felt the only way he could get somewhere and be somebody was to be hooked up with these guys. I mean, I just wonder how involved he was. And certainly, I guess he just couldn't wait to start talking, because they got a lot of information from him. What do you think about that? When you see that.
You mean,
Yeah, oh,
go ahead,
sorry, go ahead,
Dustin. No,
Pam.
no, you go.
Yeah, Grice is kind of an interesting character because he's kind of the outlier, right? He doesn't really, I'm not saying he's not familiar with those folks, but anybody that's familiar with crime, here we got, you got to, and I'm not making light of this, but yeah, I mean, you talk about a boneheaded maneuver. We talked about this before, but you've got a crew of 5 people doing the job that one person could have done nice and quiet. Why in the hell are these guys putting 5 ding dongs together unless they're trying to make a statement? If they're trying to, you know, the thing is with organizational crime, and there's a lot of facets to it. I know you know that, John and Pan. I'm sure you do too. A lot of the people that I've been in contact with over my decades of tattooing, when you get to know some of the guys that are running organizations, they're not usually looking, especially bigger ones, right? Like that are established. They're not looking for cowboys like Paul Grice because they draw a lot of attention to whatever their organization is. Now they might use them for something else, but those guys are a dime a dozen, right? Like everybody gets kind of infatuated with whatever that organization is because there's a lot of there's a lot, well, let's just say there's a lot of reasons why they get kind of infatuated with it, but typically an organization's looking for earners, man. They're looking for people that can bring something to the organization to further it. They're not looking at, like as a recruitment tool, some cowboy that's going to just like stick a gun in his hand and go bananas, right? So it makes me wonder, like, what is Paul Grice's involvement with these other people as well? it's in an organizational setting. I just, the time that you see clubs or organizations recruiting cowboys are the up and comers, the ones that are trying to make a name. They're trying to kind of break into an established field already. It's a territorial thing, whether it's drugs, money, prostitution, it could be a million of things or all of them. But typically the lower level organizations are going to be recruiting a lot of these cowboys, to put in work or, to start committing crimes or be part of it. It just kind of screams like an initiation thing. And you kind of called it, John, like this guy's obviously wanting to be part of something, but man, he got suctioned into like people that were completely disorganized and completely didn't have their stuff together. And to pull, a broad daylight double murder right in their own backyard, I mean, it just makes you wonder what else are what was, I mean, obviously we know the primary motive was the custody thing. Like there was some contention and some other related issues, but man, why go to all that trouble unless you're trying to establish something? Could be territory, could be credibility, could be power, could be a number of things. So, I'm sure we'll find out as more gets released, but that's kind of how that struck me when you've got all these people together and then this kind of fifth outlier guy. Because when you read the probable cause affidavit, it's like I'm responsible, and you got Grice like just straight up admitting to it. So who knows? I mean, it's an interesting situation to say the least.
Pam, you have something to say?
I was going to say he was the only one that made a statement going into the courthouse too. I don't know if you caught that.
I did.
Brian Enton asked him, how he felt, and he said, "I'm sorry for the family's loss," which I thought was an interesting thing to say when you've participated in this. And I mean, I'd like to know, because the grandmother seems to be the head of this posse. I mean, she seems to be the one in charge here. Even though Cole Twombly is the minister or the whatever the heck he calls himself of the Misfits, but she seems to call the shots. And how the heck did she get all these people to be complicit for something to benefit her? This was only going to benefit her. Unless maybe in their little meetings, this is what I'm thinking, the whole moral thing of because of the allegations that were put forth by her, she kind of convinced them that her grandchildren were going to be, something was going to happen if, some kind of evil was going to happen if she, if they went with their mother, which we don't even know if those allegations are true or not. That could, I mean, I know they're in writing, but we don't even know anything about it. You know what I mean? So the extent of it, or,
Yeah, how much it was investigated.
how much it was. I mean, I know it's in writing, you know what I mean? But, and that's a relative of hers. It's not even the mother. The mother didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So like you had brought up, John, like, where did her hatred come from, right?
Well, you see, this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the motive now. I'm going to take it for face value that the motive was strictly about losing custody of the kids.
Right.
And that meant to her that these kids would be in an unsafe place, and that they could possibly be essayed by her brother, or something else, something bad was going to happen to them, right? So what I'm looking at what was going on in her mind. Was she really that afraid? Okay, was it that traumatic to her,
right,
that her son would lose custody, she would lose control of these kids, and these kids would go off to some place that was very evil and worse than hell? Now, how does she, come to that agreement in her mind that this place is going to be so bad and the kids are going to be so threatened? So I say to myself, and again, this is my opinion. I'm just curious about this. I'm wondering if she was ever essayed when she was a child, because this is unbelievable rage
Right.
on a speculation that you're going to lose custody of a child, of two children. And the speculation is that they are going to be in an unsafe situation where some child abuser is going to have access to them, okay, is kind of, you know, paranoia, maybe blown it out of proportion. Because you have to understand, if this is the real motive, this lady had to be afraid and enraged, because lots of times under rage, you've got some kind of fear. Okay. So she's so enraged that she's going to kill two people. One person has nothing to do with it. One person who is just there, to watch what's going on and to make sure a safe visit takes place with the kid. A supervisor appointed by the courts just to look over the situation and to document. Has nothing to do with her, has not hurt her that we know of. I think she never even met her until then. I think that was the first time she was specifically meeting this one girl, this one woman, Jillian Kelly, because she was an alternate. I think I have that right. Now,
I think
please let me know.
somebody had said they went to the same church. Like, her husband was a pastor, and that was said on one of the local YouTube channels, that they went to the same church. So they weren't friends, but they had some kind of a connection.
So, in other words, Jillian Kelly, okay, really is innocent here. Okay.
Right.
There's no question about it. Jillian is really just supervising and just watching and keeping an eye on the visit, right? I mean, isn't that what you do? And
Right.
document what
But look at what that woman told her daughter, you know what I mean, in the affidavit. Like, she's not innocent because she was supporting Veronica.
Right. She's not innocent
Because
because
she was supporting Veronica.
she's supporting Veronica and she's helping Veronica. So you see, this is what's in this Tiffany's mind that's being dripped down on the rest of the crew that she assembled or that helped her. Okay. She's got them believing this, okay, because they're all complicit based on the allegations. And again, everybody's innocent until proven guilty, and these are only allegations. But I have to wonder, how could Tiffany have this kind of rage unless this was an extremely traumatic event in some way that really just petrified her and shocked her, and even to the point of really sending her over the edge? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Okay. I would not be surprised when the time comes and all the big time lawyers come in on this. And believe me, there's going to be some really good lawyers that are going to get involved in this case, because Tiffany and her boyfriend do have money and they can pay. So you're going to have some really major attorneys come in here. But the problem with that is, what is your defense, right? So when we're looking at the motive, we're looking at different scenarios, and the major one being the custody, and we're looking at the rage that took place that caused the murder of these two women, these two moms with kids. I mean, how enraged was Tiffany over this? But also, too, what is going to be your your excuse? How are you going to say, how are you going to get out of this murder or conspiracy to murder, which I think in Oklahoma carries a death penalty, even if you're part of it, even if you didn't more or less pull the trigger or kill somebody yourself, right? In some which way, shape, or form, that you were part of it that caused the deaths, of these people. Is she going to turn around and say, I lost my mind. I lost my mind. I had a psychiatric break. Is that going to be? Is that going to be, okay, her excuse for this? Is that going to be, what she's going to bring up in court so she doesn't face the death penalty? Okay. I had a psychotic break. I mean, and it's because of what I went through as a child. And here I was losing these two children. I could see that card being played by some defense attorneys because I don't know what other cards they're going to come up with, because this whole thing, is really horrific, but it's also pretty insane when you start to put the pieces together. I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was going to ask Dustin if I mean, I kind of think they all felt like justified in what they did.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
It was like it was some kind of thing that this has to be done.
It's a mission.
It's the attorney could say, could make up a psychotic break, but I really think they all did it knowingly, and it was something that had to be done in their minds, and they feel justified. So that's what I think.
Oh,
And
100%.
I think you're absolutely right. Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, what Pam's saying, not only do we have a double homicide, but we've got a previous attempt, back in February too, that Pam had talked briefly about. But, you got to remember that the planning of all of that didn't start in February. It didn't start 2 minutes before they rolled up to Kansas and tried to extract Veronica Butler out of her house to either abduct her or just outright kill her on the spot. So how far back does that, how far back does that, either convincing or manipulation go? I mean, obviously they have some connection to each other out there, whatever that is, even if it's just their misfits group. But yeah, I mean, that's, there's no real other reason to think otherwise, because you've got 5 people involved in this completely insane crime. It just defies logic almost.
And we've had a guy years ago by the name of Jim Jones, right?
That's right.
Defied logic. The point I'm trying to make here is to, interject the justification, this kind of justification in their minds, like that they're on a mission to do good and they're doing the right thing here, by eliminating, these women because they're so evil and it's going to drip down on these kids. So this is what we knew to this is what we need to do to save these kids. So that means Tiffany, if she's at the head of it, again, an allegation that she was, we don't know. It's going to come out though. She had to manipulate them into believing this justification. You know what I mean? That what they're doing is, righteous. And
Right.
it needs to be done to save the children. This is going to be very interesting where this is going. This is going to be very interesting. And in that particular area, these people do have a lot of clout. I want to see it start with no bail, but we'll see. Because like I said, you're going to have some big guns coming in. And don't forget, when you have this many people, 5 people, this one points at that one points at this one's looking over here. Okay. Who's making up a story? Who's blaming this? Who's saying that? I mean, how could these other people literally turn around and make an argument that Tiffany was able to manipulate them and manipulate their minds into going along with this insane act. I mean, it's just bizarre. It's bizarre. Oh, well, she convinced me that it was the right thing to do to kill these two women and bury them 10 feet down. And, I mean, we know we did the right thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that happen? I mean, that is like, talking about brainwashing. I mean, it's like, pretty strange. I mean, I'm just amazed that she was able to get them all to go along with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we don't
people.
know who did what. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Dustin. You're right. Go ahead.
No, you got 5 people involved here. My goodness. I mean, and I'm not laughing to make light of it. It just defies logic. But to your point, John, you see a lot of that kind of that driven type of behavior. You see that, globally, like with terrorism and other stuff, where people like latch into an idea, whatever it is. I can see Grice getting manipulated pretty easy, getting called into these people with power and money and wanting to be a part of it. But, you got other adults out here that are not in that same position potentially, that they're already locals, are already, friends with each other. Like, that's got to be a pretty interesting conversation, going back a ways. Like, how did that actually start? And yeah, how did she convince four adults and a kid to commit a double murder? I mean, my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, do it feels so justified,
Yeah.
so righteous at the evil deed they're going to commit. But to them, it's not evil. It's righteous
Right.
and justified. That they'll even bring the daughter in on it, 16-year-old girl, and let her know what they're going to do, because has to be done. It's the right thing to do to save the children. Always save the children, right?
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Go ahead, Pam.
I was just going to say, like, they sell themselves as these God-fearing people, right? Especially if you read Rice's, I don't know, I'm calling it a manifesto, but if you read any parts of that, he talks about, he's doesn't believe in law, he doesn't believe, but they believe in everything with God. But what about thou shalt not kill? I mean, how can you get around that? if you really believe in God, and when you're a God-fearing person, what would make you think you could take out somebody?
What about the shirt she had on about Jesus? She was wearing some shirt.
Jesus is my savior, and the
Jesus is my savior.
Yeah.
Right after the murders.
Yeah.
Again, an allegation. Those are the allegations that are out there, and pictures of her with the shirt on. Jesus is my savior. Is she believing that she was the savior for these children? I really believe you're going to see a mental health defense take place here, one way or the other. I mean, I can't see how any other defense can be mounted. For her, or unless it's a blame me, blame you. It's you did it, he did it, he said, she said, they said, I heard. That kind of thing.
Right.
Is there anything else you guys? We covered some really good stuff today. Is there anything else you guys want to take a look at before we break?
No, I think we covered quite a bit of interesting ground here, John, and it's going to be, and Pam too, it's going to be interesting to see especially when you've got, if Ms. Adams is the alleged ringleader, but now you've got 4 other people, and you've always said this, and it's completely true when it comes to crime. Like, now you've got all these links, and we already know one's starting to crack. There's going to be a ton of information that's going to start to leak out and get, released to the public over time as this thing goes forward. So it's going to be interesting to see how it gets played and how they're leveraging each of these people within this conspiracy.
Absolutely. And we're going to stay on top of it, and more will be revealed, because this is only the beginning. This is the tip of the iceberg here, and we're going to see, how this moves forward.
John, can I say one more thing before?
Absolutely.
I just wanted to say that, in the beginning, you mentioned why this case disturbs me so much. Like, I was just thinking about this as we were talking about it, that this woman, Veronica, she knew ahead of time that this woman made threats on her. She knew how dangerous this woman was from dealing with her over the years. And yet she could have been the type of person, after this custody battle going, knowing the way it was going and knowing what a fight she had. I mean, her attorney came out and said that she was on top of everything, like with her documents, and just was fighting and fighting and fighting, like always had her paperwork in order, And I'm thinking to myself, she could have just, after 3 years of trying to battle this woman, knowing how this woman was, and her coming to the house, knowing all that, could have said, like, I give up. You know what I mean? It's too much. I don't want to, like, something could happen to me and I'm out of here. But yet that's how much she loved her kids. And that's what's sad, right? She went to meet up with somebody that could possibly harm her. And that's how much she loved her kids.
She was going to be there for that child's birthday.
Yep.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah, and again, the other sad side note, which is extremely deep, is all the kids that are affected by,
Exactly.
this crazy, crazy situation, horrific and crazy situation. With that all being said, I want to thank you guys so much. Truly, you made this show. Okay, really. I mean, really, you nailed it. You guys are great. You're always great when we have you on. You know what you're talking about. And, to our audience out there, thank you so much for letting us into your house. Most importantly, stay safe out there. Stay on your toes. We live in a very violent world, Until we meet again, take care, and God bless, and thank you.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, thanks, John. It's good to see you, Pam. Thanks to your audience,
You
too.
too, Dustin.
Yeah, great audience.